All right, hello and welcome to the PMC Lounge Live. We are basically trying to go live every Friday, and we've been successful in doing so. So you can consider that we go live every Friday pretty much, and we try to cover stuff that is related to real life project management. So whether you're just starting out, you're climbing the ladder, or you're already a pro in project management, I guarantee that the insights that we dish out in these live sessions that we have done so far, these are going to seriously level up your journey in project management. Check out the link in the description. It will be a playlist of all the live sessions that we have done so far. But do that after we are done with live for today. So brace yourself for today's session. It's gonna be a blast, no doubt about that. Here's a little intro about myself. I've been working in project management since 2011, a lot of certifications. I have spoken at events. I'm a mentor. I've consulted a lot of companies out there on their projects. So make yourself comfortable. You need to chill out. You can grab a cool drink or maybe a yummy snack. Don't forget to feel the chat vibes, right? Don't be shy. Share your thoughts, drop your comments, throw in some likes, and help us spread the word that we are live on PMC Lounge. And that is going to help us reap the benefits together. Now, our live sessions are essentially split into three parts. The first one is the welcome part, which we are doing right now. And then we go over the feature content and then we wrap things down and we call it the last call. So, before we get started, I'd like to talk a bit about pmclounge.com because you might be catching this live for the first time, or even if you're watching the replay and you're watching this for the first time, and you're here for the first time, essentially, I'd like to let you know that PMC in PMC Lounge stands for Project Management Certification. So that's right, we are all about PMP and other project management related certifications. But guess what? We are not just about the exams, we are also here to keep you in the loop with what's buzzing in the world of project management. What are the industry trends? What are the reports that you should be aware of? And all that good stuff, right? So, our goal at PMC Lounge has always been to simplify project management. We break down topics in the simplest language possible. And thousands of our community members, they have aced their PMP exam using our resources. And when I say resources, I'm talking about the free articles that you're going to find on pmclounge.com, the videos, the playlists that you're going to find on this YouTube channel itself. So check these free stuff out. And how about hitting that subscribe button to stay in the loop, right? And we are also hanging out on all the socials. So check us out there: Facebook, Instagram, not Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And I would also urge you to check out our Telegram channel, which is at the rate PMC Zone. So at PMC Zone, you can find us on Telegram, and definitely subscribe to PMC Lounge because we are the number one free project management resource out there. Thousands of our community members have cleared their PMP exam. You could be next. But even if you are not preparing for the PMP exam, even if you're just a project management professional, videos like these are going to help you stay abreast with what's happening in the world of project management. All right, so before we get started, I'd like to talk about this quote that you see here, and you can ponder over it. It says, get the right people, then no matter what else you might do wrong after that, what all else you might do wrong after that, the people will save you. That's what management is all about. Think about this quote. It tells you to get the right people. It's essentially talking about the importance of having a good team. You, as a project manager, you are definitely someone who cannot function without a project team. And this is why having the right team resources can be the key, because even if you do something wrong after that, the people are going to save you. And that's what management is all about. That's what project management is also all about. So, does this quote hit home for you? Can you relate? And whether you're catching this session in real time or on replay, go ahead and drop a comment about this quote. Let's dive into the content for today's live session and let's get started. So, what we are talking about are the 7 tips to manage pressure. We as project managers are handling projects that are, you know, high pressure environment. These projects operate in high pressure environments, and I'll also tell you some of the reasons why this has happened. Now, here are the 7 tips that are going to help you with, essentially easing this pressure out. So, managing pressure so that you can manage projects. The most common reason for stress is often either a high workload or external pressures. So, you're either working on a project that requires a lot of work, a lot of efforts from your end, or there could be some external pressures, some external environmental factors that are causing pressures on your project and that have made your project a high pressure environment. So, project management isn't about a well balanced triple constraint triangle anymore because of the dynamic business environment and changing requirements. And I'll take an example to explain why I say so. Gone are the days when you, as project manager, was just supposed to basically take care of the iron triangle of project management, right? The triple constraints. Take care of the scope, the cost, the schedule, and of course, the quality. So, if you take care of all of these, then your project will be considered a success. That is not the case anymore because, like this slide says, the business environment is dynamic. The requirements are ever changing. And I'll give you an example which will drive my point home, uh, talking about the difference between mobile phones and how companies are launching multiple mobile phones every single day versus previous electronic products. So let's go to the next slide and let's talk about this. So this is an image that I took from Sony, and it's talking about the Walkman, the Sony Walkman, the legendary audio cassette player. And you could see 1979 was when the history making first model came out. 1979. After that, 2 years later, Sony's Walkman 2 came with a belt clip and stylized button. Then came 1983, then 86, 88. They introduced the Discman, 92, 96, 1999, 2000. So around this time is when they basically did a shorter cycle, but then they were back at a 4 year cycle, a gap of 5 years, 2 years again, 3 years, and then 2015 Walkman is redefined with 128 GB Walkman high resolution digital music player. So what's happening here is, if you take a look at this, these many products were introduced in the market and there was a certain gap between the previous product, the previous generation of the product, right? And this gap signified the time people had to work on the next iteration of the product, right? Now compare this with today. These are the iPhones of 2023. What's happening here is that in a single year, company is launching four products. Four products in a single year, and compare that with what we saw here, right? One product in 1979, the second product came in 1981. Compare this with four products every year. So I hope you are able to sort of take a cue here and understand how projects have become a high pressure environment endeavor. And this is not just about electronics and hardware. Software industry is even faster. So gone are the days of delivering a business application in 6 months. Now, small changes are shipped each sprint, or should I say each month, and that is what Agile is all about. In software, you are essentially shipping some changes. You are producing a shippable product that gets shipped every sprint, which could be 1 month, right? So 28 days, you are shipping something out. Compare that with the cycles that we used to have earlier. So this is going to significantly add to the stress of the environment that the projects are being delivered in. You are expected to deliver faster, add new features, and also maintain the quality. That is where the stress, the pressure come from. Now, here are some of the, you know, quotes that you might have heard uh, on your projects in the project environment. Given the urgency, support concerns take precedence over ongoing project. What does this mean? This means that you are operating in an environment where resources, it could be the team resources, it could be physical resources as well. Resources are not available to you because they are essentially working on something which is more important. In this case, support concerns. So let's say there's a defect that has been reported externally, and the best engineers in your company are working to sort that defect out, and they might be working on your project earlier, but they have something urgent to take care of, so you cannot get access to these team resources, which means your project is going to get delayed, which means delay in project is going to increase the stress that you have as a project manager. It is going to increase the pressure that this project is essentially operating in, the environment that this project is operating in. It is strongly recommended to strictly adhere to the established protocols for optimal procedural outcomes. What this means is process delays. And if you're talking about the waterfall model, the traditional way of managing projects, you had to create loads of documents. And that's where Agile stepped in, especially Scrum. And they said that, we would focus more on delivering value rather than comprehensive documentation. So this quote is all about process delays. So we have essentially fixed this with Agile in the software industry, but not so much in other industries. Project management in other industries that follow the traditional waterfall approach may still have this situation where they have to adhere to the established protocols. So, which means if you are in an environment where your project needs to be delivered early, you still have to adhere to the established protocols. You have to do your documentation and stuff. And that means your pressure is going to increase, right? The environment that you're working in. The contractor appears to face challenges in comprehending the intricacies of the project requirements. This again refers to requirements gap. Your projects are getting complex, and as your projects get more and more complex, the people that work on your projects, they are having a difficult time comprehending the kind of requirements you have. Think about artificial intelligence, think about virtual reality. Requirements for projects that are based on virtual reality could be something that a might never understand, right? So as projects become more complex, as the complexity increases, the environment, the pressure in the environment that this project is being delivered in, that also increases because you have stakeholders that potentially do not understand why or what you are delivering. Next, a proactive approach is necessary to navigate and adapt to recent shifts in government regulations. What this signifies is that the world is changing, right? Even regimes change. And when regimes change, when governments change, policies change, philosophies change. And when that happens, that may have an impact on your project as well. Think for an example, the government might be working on, let's say, some social security number for the entire population. And to generate a social security number for someone, you might be required to give your biometrics. And the regime changes, another government comes in, and this new government is very high on uh, you know privacy concerns for its citizen. And that means the pressure on your project, if you were working on that social security number sort of project, the pressure on this project has drastically increased, because now the government would want you to come up with ideas, come up with solutions that do not impact the privacy of the citizens, and you are still able to generate the social security numbers. So I hope you realize how even regime changes, even government changes can increase the pressure on your project, right? So you have to adapt to recent shifts in government regulations. And finally, in response to dynamic business conditions, project scope adjustments may become necessary. Today, you cannot launch one new phone in 2 years, like how Sony launched their Walkmans, right? You cannot do that because the business conditions have changed. Companies are now used to basically launch 4 mobile phones a year. You have to do multiple launches if you need to survive in this business condition. So, what I meant to say with this slide was to show you that you may hear quotes like this on your projects in your company, right? And this is to say that pressure situations are now a part of project management. How you handle them is going to lessen the blow to the project and your team, and even your own psyche as a project manager. So, the 7 strategies that we are going to discuss today, these are based on this uh, really good book known as The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the 7 strategies that we discuss closely aligned to these 7 habits. And this is essentially going to help you reduce the pressure, ease the stress on your project or in the environment that you are working in. A quick overview of what these 7 habits are, and this is, of course, from the book. The first one is to be proactive, to begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win win, speak first to understand and then to be understood, synergize, sharpen the saw. So, these are the 7 habits of highly effective people. You, as a highly effective project manager, what should you be doing and how should you tailor these 7 habits so that you can apply them on your projects to ease the pressure? So let's start off, and just one more thing here. What we are going to do is we are going to tailor these 7 habits so that they become useful to you as project managers. You see, the more exposure you have to pressure or stress, right, the more adeptly you can leverage it to your benefit. And that's something that we'll talk about. Those project managers that are capable of steering projects and teams successfully through stressful situations, they not only achieve career success but also garner admiration as influential leaders. So, if you want admiration, if you want to be an influential leader, right, you have to manage your projects, you have to manage your project teams through these stressful project environment, through these stressful projects. And this will be a proof that you, as a project manager, are not just a project manager, not just someone with a lot of experience in project management, not just someone with a lot of certifications, but you have a really good EQ as well, emotional quotient as well. And you are very, very effective because guess what? You are following the 7 habits of highly effective people tailored to project management. Let's talk about point number 1, and that is to ease the situation. Try to lighten the mood, discover the humor, but keep in mind the seriousness of the situation. Be happy, be happy be in a joyous mood. Always have a little bit of a smile on your face when project team members come to you. Do not have a brooding posture or a brooding emotion on your face at all times, right? This is actually something that is definitely going to lighten the mood and ease some of the pressure out, because you and your project team might be working in a very stressful environment. And when someone approaches you, and if you are able to greet them with a smile, and you are able to lighten the mood a bit, you are going to give a good experience, and you are going to elevate the easiness right around the environment that your project is operating in. Next is to take a deep breath. Redirect your mind from the stressful moment. And obviously, when you're working on a high pressure, high stress project, right? You're working in a high stress environment, you will have a lot of stressful moments throughout your day. You should take a deep breath for sure. Worry, but set a future time for it. Postpone worrying for now. Now, what happens is a lot of times our brains imagine stuff, and we imagine the worst. And we then imagine the worst, and we start to think about the worst, and we start to ponder over how to overcome that worst situation, which might have not materialized as of yet. So, what you need to do is to set a future time for it. When this thing materializes, that is when I'm going to worry about it. So, I will postpone worrying for now. Adopt an outsider's perspective. Detach emotionally for clearer thinking. This is very, very important. How pragmatic can you be when it comes to your projects? Because a lot of project managers, even the project team members, they take their projects very, very personally. And it's good. It's good to do so at a certain level. But at the same time, can you look at your project? Can you look at your project status? Can you look at your project team members, right? From an outsider's perspective, and try to think as an outsider, what value is this project bringing to the table? What is the stress level at this project, right? In the environment that this project is operating in, right? You need to have that outsider's purview to be able to have that 360-degree loop and 360-degree overview of where your project stands. And that is how you're going to detach emotionally, because taking decisions emotionally may backfire, but if you are able to detach yourself from the project, you will be able to take a look at your project from outsiders perspective and take better decisions as well. Focus on something positive. Now come on, there are hundreds of things that are going to go on simultaneously on your project. Not all of them can be negative. Not all of them can be something that produces more stress, right? That are stress inducing. There are definitely positive things, positive activities, positive milestones that your teams might be achieving, right? So focus on the positive as well. And that is going to entertain positive thoughts, like finding the humor in the situation or seeing it as a future anecdote. This is very, very important. This is essentially, all of these points are essentially going to help you ease the situation. And this is just the first pointer. Let's get on with the second pointer, which is all about gain perspective by assessing the impact. Now, obviously, things might go bad. How can you gain perspective? How can you stay calm and composed at this point when things may go down south? Number one is evaluate the situation's significance. This is very, very important. Sometimes we are so indulged in our work that something, even something which is very small, something which should not, you know, be of much significance, if that goes wrong, still we sort of give it more importance than it deserves. So always evaluate the significance of the situation. Understand the ripple effect and anticipate potential changes. This is also very, very important, because in a project environment, it is very rare that something is not related to the other. So there are a lot of moving parts on every project. And if one of them goes bad or alienates from its position, what happens is the whole system might get impacted. There is a domino effect, right? And that is where this point talks about understanding the ripple effect, the domino effect. And you need to anticipate any potential changes. So this is something, what's happening here is you're gaining perspective by assessing the impact of the situation. Assess whether these changes might lead to positive or negative outcomes, and to what extent. This is also important. Sometimes, not all changes are bad. Sometimes something changes and it basically provides you a strength, right? It provides you a strong point. It provides you some sort of tailwind which is going to help your project or your whole project situation. So always think look at the changes from the perspective of whether they are positive or negative outcomes that they are going to produce, and to what extent as well. Let's talk about point number 3. Keep the end goal in sight and chart your path. Very, very important. As project managers, a lot of times we just tend to think about the now or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. When we are in the planning phase, we are looking at a bigger picture. But when we are in execution, that's when we tend to focus too much on the present and the immediate future. But this point tells you that you should always keep the end goal in mind, keep the larger picture in sight, and that is how you will be able to chart your path. Now, revisit and clarify project objectives by reviewing the contract, statement of work, and or the project charter as well. These are very high level documents. We are talking about contract, we are talking about statement of work, we are talking about project charter. These are not your documents that talk about a lot of details, like maybe a requirements document would or a design document would, right? These are high level requirements. These are high level documents that have requirements which are very high level. And if you take a look at them, you will be able to focus on the larger picture. So make use of these documents for sure. Next point is document the project scope, the deliverables, and success criteria if not already specified. Sometimes this is one of the biggest problems that I see with projects, especially when something changes. Let's say a small new requirement has just come in and it has been approved, it has gone through your change management and all, but the success criteria for that requirement was not documented, and that is going to cause some trouble, right? So it is always important to ensure that no matter how small or how big the change is, what is the project scope because of this change, right? Document it. What are the deliverables that you need to produce now because of this change? Document that as well. What is the success criteria? Document that as well. So this is something very, very important. Now, familiarize yourself with the roles and responsibilities of the project team and stakeholders, recognizing that the team plays a crucial role in achieving the goal. A lot of people, a lot of times, there are always people who are very, very proactive, right? Who are very active, who participate in everything that the project does. And what happens is, when you meet people like these, you tend to give them more work. You tend to give them work or assign them work or ask them for help with something that they are not necessarily responsible for. So, this is where this point cautions you, because when you have the end goal in mind, when you have the larger picture in your mind, right, you should be able to familiarize yourself with the roles and responsibilities of the project team and the stakeholders. And you need to recognize that the team plays a crucial role in achieving the goal. You cannot overburden someone just because they are active, and you cannot take work away from someone just because they are not participating enough. The entire team plays a crucial role here. So that again is something which you will be able to see and you'll be able to do if you have the larger goal in mind, the larger picture in mind. Let's talk about point number 4, which is distinguishing between urgent and important so that you can actually prioritize. You need to assess the tasks of your project based on their urgency and importance, taking budget and visibility into account as well. You might have already heard about the important urgent matrix, right? If it is important and urgent, then something that you should look into right away. If it is important but not urgent, can you delegate it and stuff like that. So there's this important urgent matrix, and which is what this point is all about, because that is something that you as a project manager will find very very helpful. A lot of times, since this is something which is true for maybe 95% of the projects out there, that there are just so many activities and so many tasks and so many things that you as a project manager or your project team need to take care of, that having this perspective, having this importance and urgency matrix created for all of these activities is going to help you stay on track, not feel stressed, not feel overwhelmed. All right, seek input from your manager or sponsor to prioritize tasks effectively. This is also important because sometimes a coder might think that coding is very very important and I'm coding a new feature which is most important. But when you speak to the sponsor, right, speak to someone in the hierarchy who's higher in the hierarchy, they might tell you, well, we have to fix this defect and we have to roll it out as soon as possible. So while you're working on this feature, that's all great, but please put more emphasis on this ongoing defect that the customer has reported. So if you're not able to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important, make use of your managers, people higher up in the hierarchy, make use of your sponsor as well. Begin tackling tasks in order of priority. So when you have this matrix in, you start off with something which is on top of the priority list. When faced with new requests, inquire about the required timeline and negotiate delivery dates. This is again super super important, because as a project manager, you cannot leave this in the hands of your project team, right? Because each person in your project team will have a different perspective about the tasks that they need to perform. So, as a project manager, if you encounter a change, you as a project manager need to inquire about the required timeline. You need to inquire about the delivery dates that whoever is proposing this change requires, and then you need to negotiate based on that. And once you have the final timeline and delivery dates with you, only then should you involve your project team and let them know why a certain date needs to be met, why this timeline needs to be met, why is this important, and why or why not this is urgent. Allocate new tasks only when previous ones are resolved or put on hold. So do not overburden your team. They're already working on two things and you ping them about two other things. That is going to overburden them, that is going to overwhelm them, and that is going to increase the stress in the environment that your project is operating in. Follow up with individuals affected by your prioritization decisions. Again, something which you as a project manager should do, because this basically proves that you have empathy, right? And if there are prioritization decisions that are affecting individuals, because like I said, it is possible that a coder might be working on developing a new feature, he's coding a new feature, and he might think that this is very very important, but you end up going to him and you end up telling him that this defect is something which is reported by the customer, and this is basically more important than the feature that you're working on. You need to follow up with that coder just to ensure that he does not start to think that the feature he was working on is not important at all. Well, of course, that was also important, but this defect gets higher priority, gets higher on our urgency list as well. So, that way you are not demotivating anyone. That way you're not devaluing someone's work that they were doing on by coding that feature, right? So this is again very important to keep a check on your team, keep a pulse check on your team basically. Now, point number 5 is all about tackling issues directly. Take a deep breath. Remember, most project pressure situations are not life or death issues. So there's definitely no need to panic. You have got this. Sometimes we are so consumed with our projects that we almost treat our projects as our babies. And if something goes wrong, we treat it as if something has gone wrong with our baby, God forbid. But you need to realize that this is not a life or death sort of situation. So you need to take a deep breath. And this is again something where which is the first step that you do when you have to tackle issues directly. But remember, we are tackling issues directly. So you have to be objective. Put on your analytical hat. This again proves that you have high emotional quotient, because someone with high emotional quotient will be able to put on their analytical hat even in a very high stress, high pressure scenario. So, what do? You need to identify the issue, you need to identify its root cause, and then enlist the help of those who can contribute to possible solutions. You, as a project manager, will not be able to do everything on your own. So, you definitely need project team, you definitely need support of others. So, first of all, find the issue, find what the root cause is, and then reach out to people who may have possible solutions. Address the issue directly. So don't beat around the bush for sure, right? This is a waste of time. Collaborate with the individuals responsible or are involved in the situation. Lead and guide their efforts until pressure situation is resolved. More heads are better than one. Sometimes, as project managers, we tend to ignore the people or the individuals that are involved in a certain situation or that are responsible for a certain situation, because we want to be in their good books. That is not how you resolve a situation, that is not how you tackle issues directly. Because when you have to do that, you have to involve everyone that was part of the situation which led to that issue. It might require you to do some hard conversations, but do that. Because when you have your analytical hat on, when you're looking at a situation from a pragmatic point of view, and when you have that high emotional quotient where you do not act or behave differently in a pressure situation, then definitely you'll be able to tackle issues directly. You'll be able to have that hard, difficult conversations, and you'll be able to get the involvement of the right people, people with the right knowledge of the issues, and be able to sort things out. All right, let's talk about point number 6, that is all about embracing transparency and effective communication. Always be transparent. Keep everyone informed about the situation. A lot of times we tend to sort of, hide information, which is the worst thing that you as a project manager can do. Let me sip some water here. All right. So, what happens is a lot of times project managers tend to keep things to themselves or just one or two other people on the project. And that is very incorrect, right? That's not the right way to deal with any issue, to deal with any problem that has occurred. You have to be very, very transparent. If there is an issue, the entire project team must be aware of it. The affected stakeholders must also be aware of it. So keep everyone informed about the situation. Articulate the issue. Now, this is something that you need to do in a calm but definitely urgent manner. Now, convey the problem to the sponsor, explaining why it's an issue and outlining the steps planned to resolve it. Their insights might prove valuable. This is also important most of the times. And what happens is, I've seen that project managers tend to avoid talking to the customer or the sponsor, thinking that you've faced an issue and you want to basically show your best side to them. So if there's an issue, you might want to hide that issue, sort of keep it under the rug as long as possible, so that you'll be able to sort things out and your customer would never be able to figure this out, or will never be able to know that this was an issue. Your sponsor will not be able to know that this was an issue. But these sponsors, these customers, they might have worked on projects like these with other project teams as well. And they might have been in such a situation in the past as well. So, why not tap on their experience? Why not tap on the information that they might already have? So, this is very, very important. It is possible that whatever issue that you're facing today is something that the sponsor faced with some other project team on some other project, right? Which was similar to yours. So if you convey the issue to the sponsor, they might be able to give you some sort of knowledge based on their past experience as well. So this again comes from the point of being transparent and also having effective communication, practicing effective communication. Engage the project team and stakeholders, involve them in the resolution process for sure. Do not keep things to yourselves, or just two or three confidants that you may have on your project. Communicate consistently, keep the lines of communication open throughout the resolution efforts. Pretty self explanatory. Now, let's talk about point number 7, that is revisit project management fundamentals. Very, very important. You and I, as project managers, you and I, as PMP certified professionals, we feel that, we know everything. There's no point in going back to the definition of a project, the definition of change management, the different strategies that you can, make use of to basically mitigate or bring the risks down. We feel that way. But most of the times when we are dealing with our projects day in and day out, we tend to forget the basics. And this is where this point asks you to revisit the fundamentals of project management. Identify the cost. Many pressure situations arise from deviations from the project management methodology. People would say we want to do daily stand up on text messages, right? On Slack or on Teams. We do not want to have an in person meeting to do the daily scrum. Now, you might agree to it thinking that this is going to be, everyone's going to be comfortable, but that might result in some other issues in the future. And that is when you would realize that we deviated from the project management methodology, from what the scrum definition is, the daily scrum definition is. We deviated from it, and that is why it is causing the problem. So, this is why it is very important to revisit the fundamentals, to know what the fundamentals are, and then take action accordingly. Return to basics. Go back to the core principles of project management. If a step was overlooked, it's never too late to rectify it and bring the project back on course. So, that is why it is obviously very, very important to always revisit the project fundamentals. If required, go over your study material. Subscribe to channels like these that keep telling you, keep reminding you what you are supposed to do when it comes to managing your projects. And those were the 7 steps that you can use to manage projects in high pressure environment. Now, support the project team and sponsor consistently. Now, this is something which you, as a project manager, what is the ideal approach for you as a project manager? What are you supposed to do in a highly stressful environment? The, the ideal approach for a project is to prevent or minimize the pressure situations, right? That's the ideal approach for a project manager. You need to cultivate the right attitude to set the tone for this. All right, seek the support of the team proactively. The team plays a crucial role, remember, right? So in avoiding or even reducing pressure situations. So in order to achieve this, you should always seek the support of your project team. You should always support the project team and sponsor consistently. You should avoid engaging in the blame game. This is very, very unproductive. And this also is detrimental to trust and goodwill within the project. Concentrate on resolving the issue at hand. Stop playing the blame game. Concentrate on what the issue is. Find out the root cause. Find out the people that can help you deal with the situation, deal with the issue rather than, pointing fingers at each other. Prioritize building strong relationships with your team, with your stakeholders, and your peers, as these connections can swiftly help navigate pressure situations. They will have a lot of experience. When you talk about your project team members, when you talk about your stakeholders, your peer project managers, they have a lot of experience. They might have been in this situations like these, so they can definitely help you, right? They can obviously offer some nuggets. Emphasize effective communication throughout the process, and communicate, communicate, communicate. That is what we say, right, in project management, that a majority of what you do, major major part of your job is to communicate. So if you and one other thing is, you can never over communicate. So if you focus on effective communication, and if you focus on being transparent, if you focus on keeping everyone in the loop, that is where you will be able to navigate the high pressure situations. So I hope these points are also helpful for you. And before we talk about lounge access, what you see on your screen, I hope you are finding some good nuggets in this live stream. If you are, go ahead and drop a like to let me know. And what are your thoughts on what we have chatted about today? Anything that you would like to add or discuss with me about the points that I mentioned today? In fact, when it comes to talking with me, that is where lounge access comes into the picture. You can discuss your career goals, you can get your questions answered around the PMP certification, your project management career path, jumping into the project management domain, or anything as long as we stick to project management. So, this is the email that you should drop a note to: admin@pmclounge.com. This is something, the Lounge Access is a program which is also open for those who join the PMC Lounge YouTube channel. So there's a join button on our channel. If you hit that, if you basically join our program, you will be able to have access to Lounge Access, right? Take advantage of this opportunity. It is aptly titled Lounge Access because we are PMC Lounge. So that's about PMC Lounge and Lounge Access. Here's a testimonial by Prakash, and it's a small one, but I hope it's helpful. So that's all that we had in this video. Like, share, subscribe. Use the thanks button if you like our content. And if you want to contribute, head over to pmclounge.com/contribute. Don't forget to check out our website, pmclounge.com. Follow us on our socials, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.